Uma, you said with your ESOL students to help them teach reading, one of your strategies is to give them bilingual books.
Right.
Explain again why you do that.
I want to give them a scaffold and a starting point. So often students know these stories in their native language, so it allows them to tap into it and feel like they have access to the text in the same ways that the native English speakers do.
One of the key standards is that students are able to retell a story with support and prompting and be able to describe characters and just tell what happened and key details.
Right.
So your students are still learning the language, but they also need to meet some of those standards.
Right.
So can you talk about some scaffolding and instructional practice you use with these texts so that they can do that?
Okay, so for example, you have Little Red Riding Hood here, and over the course of a week, I read the text in both English and Spanish, tapping into that vocabulary that we previously spoke of, and I have students retell the story each day. So there's specific work samples from the retellings where I allow them to draw a picture and retell the story in whatever way that they remember, and a lot of times at the beginning they'll be using Spanish. So on days 1 and 2, this student was saying abuelita for grandma and ojos for eyes, which were 2 of the vocabulary words she was expected to acquire.
Because grandma and eyes were the
yes.
vocabulary words, and she was using the Spanish version.
Right, but by day 3, she was able to say the wolf is scaring Little Red Riding Hood and abuelita grandma. So she's using both words together, meaning she's gaining that word grandma, and she was able to say he had big ears, eyes, and a mouth, which were all the vocabulary words.
What do you attribute that development from really just a few days, not being able to use these words, to being able to use these words when they were retelling the story?
I think it's the simultaneous reading where I will do a sentence by sentence reading and stopping and saying, he had big eyes, ojos, and having them point to it or doing some sort of motions when they're necessary, but making it very explicit and allowing them the freedom to use the Spanish at the beginning, to use the English words they already do have, and then slowly making them more accountable for the vocabulary words.
So they have multiple means of reading it,
Right.
both in their language and in English, and then you give them multiple means of expressing it
Right.
in their language, a picture, and in English.
Right.
But you give them prompting and support and continuous feedback
Right.
so that they will eventually meet the standard in English,
Yes.
but not necessarily immediately.
Yes.
Okay, that's very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll look at writing.